Hey everyone, April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and I was asked to speak at the Shatter the Silence event sponsored by Helen Ross McNabb at the end of this month. Our event was canceled due to COVID-19. I decided that this wasn't a reason to shatter my silence. My voice matters. This is my story. March 22nd, 2018, I became 1 in 5. I am not a victim, but I am a survivor of sexual assault. My story begins in 2014. When I walked into my Verizon provider to get a new phone, I was greeted by a salesman, good looking, charming, eager to help me retrieve very special voicemails that I wanted on my new phone. I was extremely appreciative of his time, and I received a text that night from an unknown number telling me how he thought I was an incredible person and I had such strength to go through what I had. That voicemail was from my best friend Claire, who had died months before. I didn't think anything of it and responded thanking him for helping me. We texted a little longer, and he told me that if I ever became single, he would want to show me how a woman should be treated. Fast forward to 2017, when I was graduating from college, I posted a picture when I moved out of my apartment. I got a message on Instagram from him asking if I was coming back to Maryville. I responded and said yes, and we caught up. He told me I should come see him, and I reminded him that I wasn't single. From 2014 to 2017, I would get Snapchats from him about how he wanted to see me, shirtless selfies, and I consistently reminded him that I was in a serious relationship. You may wonder why I didn't block him. There was part of me that liked the attention. My boyfriend and I were in a long-distance relationship, and I was lonely, depressed, and stressed with school. I wasn't being harmed, and the Snapchats came infrequently, so I didn't think much of it. December of 2017, my dad asked me to go to Verizon to help him get a new phone, and of course I went. We walked in, and who would have thought he was there? Shortly after, I ended my relationship of 4 years and was feeling pretty low. We began texting. He asked me to come over one night and watch a movie and talk. I thought he was a friend and that I could talk to him. When I got to his apartment, I was excited that someone was interested in me, someone who wanted to show me how a woman should be treated. We began watching a movie and he cuddled me. He kissed me, which I was fine with. I let him know that I wouldn't be intimate with him, that I had decided to save myself for marriage. He was shocked that my ex and I hadn't had sex over the course of 4 years, but I told him that that was our choice. He seemed to be fine with it. When I went to leave, he grabbed me from behind and gave me a hug. And the next thing that I knew, he was pushing me towards his bedroom and pulled my jeans down. This man is about 6'2" and built. There was no stopping him physically. I reminded him I wasn't ready for anything sexual and I was leaving. He said that was fine. About a week later, on March 22nd, 2018, he asked me to come over again. I felt that I had laid the boundary line and I assumed he would respect that, so I went again. I was wrong. This would turn into the worst night of my life. It all became innocent enough. Watch a movie in the living room, cuddle, kiss. Then he asked for a blowjob. I said no. He kept at it. Please, come on, I'll like it. I continued to say no. He grabbed my hand and put it down his pants. I tried to pull away, but he was too strong. The next thing I know, he's on top of me taking my sweatpants off. That's right, I had sweatpants and a pullover on. He took his pants off and forced himself inside me. I cried out in pain, and my body froze. I watched a dead clock throughout as a basketball game was playing in the background. He positioned me the way he liked and continued to rape me. I told him no and stop multiple times. I knew at this point that he wasn't going to stop, that my worst nightmare was coming true. He pulled out and laughed at me and said, "You look miserable." He wasn't finished yet. He flipped me to my stomach and raped me again. He said he loved seeing my ass in his face. My face was in a pillow. He finally finished and went to his bathroom to clean up, brought a towel and threw it at me. He started watching basketball as I lay there frozen. He asked when I was leaving. I got my clothes and left. He hugged me when I was leaving, and on my way home, he texted me and said he had a good night. I got in my car and wasn't sure what had just happened. I began to cry my eyes out. It was after midnight, so who was I going to call? I knew my best friend would answer because she worked nights. As I'm crying my eyes out, I told her I thought I'd been raped. She immediately went into advocate mode and told me that it would all be okay. I would get through this, and the first thing I needed to do was to get to a hospital. She offered to call my mom, but I told her that I could do it. I made it to the hospital, and I muttered the words, "I was just raped." I was taken back, and the process began. All the many questions. Did you know him? Yes. Did he use protection? No. Did you tell him no? Yes. Do you want to file a police report? No, I'm not ready. I was told the sexual assault nurse examiner, Sane, would be arriving within a few hours, but the advocate couldn't come because 4 other rape kits were being conducted at the same time in the area. I was told I could wait until the morning to go to the clinic where a nurse and an advocate would be there. I declined, knowing that if I went home, I would shower and never go to the clinic. A rape kit is about as miserable as you would expect it to be. A ton of questions. Your statement and signing paperwork agreeing to pictures, swabs, pap smear, STD testing, antiretroviral meds, and Plan B. This kit took about 3 hours. That was the first of many times I would have to tell my story. I went home and stayed in bed for hours, waking up crying. My mom in bed with me trying to console me. The next few days were rough. The medications made me sick. The crying was uncontrollable. The emotions I felt were intense. I had to return to work 3 days later. I had to hide my emotions, act like nothing happened to me over the weekend. I had to be strong, but when I would get home in the evenings, that's when my emotions would surface. I constantly blamed myself for what happened. Why didn't I fight back? Why did I go to the house the second time? I became suicidal. I thought I had no worth. My life didn't matter. I had something taken from me and I would never get that back, so who would want me? I was offered therapy through the Sexual Assault Center of East Tennessee through Helen Ross McNabb. I knew that if I was going to get better, I would have to do therapy. My therapist will never know how much I appreciate her. She helped save my life. She helped me realize that this wasn't my fault. I didn't go to his house expecting to be raped. Nobody expects to be raped. I learned that our bodies do different things during our flight or fight response. My body's response of freezing was to help me survive. I can't say therapy was easy. It was by far the hardest thing I've had to do. Tell my story again and work through it piece by piece. She introduced me to EMDR therapy, and if you don't know much about it, I encourage you to read up on it. This type of therapy helps you desensitize memories. You don't forget, but you are able to live with the memory. This can take multiple sessions. I can promise you that it is extremely helpful. I went to therapy weekly for 2 years. It's not a fast or easy process, but it's worth it. February of 2020, I graduated from therapy, and that is one of my proudest moments. I am stronger now than I ever have been. You may ask if I've ever filed charges. The answer is yes. It took me about 8 months to decide I deserved justice. I decided that 2018 was going to close the worst chapter of my life, and 2019 would start my next chapter. I decided to file charges. I was blessed with an attorney that offered to help me pro bono. He got me to the people I needed and helped me through the hurdles of reporting. 60% of sexual assaults are not reported to the police, and I learned why. It's an extremely difficult and long process. People have made the judgmental accusation that women false report. False reporting is between 2 and 8%. Why do we listen to those uneducated statements when we could be helping the other 60% that are afraid to report? I sat in a conference room with the detective over serious crimes, telling my story again. He had everything he needed: my statement, my medical records, my phone records, and my rape kit. The next phone call I would get from him would be to tell me he interviewed my rapist. The detective told me he believed me and he thought I had a case. Even said my rapist cried during the interview and admitted that I said no, but he thought that was where our relationship was heading. The detective told me crying typically showed guilt. I felt pretty good at this point, hoping he would get jail time. Christmas came and went, and I hadn't heard from the assistant district attorney. I finally got a call a few months later that the ADA was ready to meet with me. My nerves were at an all-time high. I sat in another conference room with the ADA and his secretary. He told me he couldn't take my case. He said he believed me, but he believed my rapist too. I began to cry and said I didn't know the word no didn't mean no. He walked out and the secretary tried to console me by telling me terrible stories of rapists getting away with their crimes, trying to let me know it's hard to protect them and how to prosecute them. My heart was broken. I felt that all my hard work up until that point wasn't worth it. My rapist got away with it and I would have to live with this the rest of my life. I immediately went to therapy and told her what happened. A couple weeks later, my therapist had coworkers in a meeting with the ADAs, and the ADA said they wanted to start arresting rapists as soon as a rape is reported. Who knows if it were my case or the hundreds of other rape cases on the desks of the ADAs that helped make that statement. But at least we know that change is coming. There is hope for justice. Throughout the process, I reminded myself that my rape doesn't define me. It will always be part of my story. There isn't a reason to hide what happened to me. My voice will be heard. I will fight for survivors until the day I die. I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. This is my start to becoming an advocate for sexual assault survivors. I want to encourage anyone that has been a survivor of sexual assault to get the help you deserve. You deserve to feel worthy, enough, loved. You will get through this. It won't always feel like you're progressing, but you are. If you would have told me 2 years ago that I would be telling my story, I would have told you were crazy. I am stronger now than I ever have been. Did I get justice in the end? Yes. I'm living my life to the fullest, and I know that I did everything I could to gain my life back. He doesn't own me. He has to live with what he did to me every day. I am now able to sit here and tell my story with a brave face and know that even if I help one person watching, that is one more story that will be heard. My hope is for an end to sexual violence, hope for justice for survivors, hope for a society that doesn't victim blame, hope for legislation change, hope for a future free of all forms of oppression and violence. This is my story. I am a survivor of sexual assault. Thanks for watching.